Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down a massive round 34 Bundesliga clash at the Allianz Arena. We've got the dominant force of first-place Bayern Munich hosting a totally desperate 14th-place FC Köln side.
It looks incredibly lopsided on paper, sure, but when we actually dig into the tactical positioning and specific pitch geography, a fascinating battle of attrition emerges between a high-powered machine and a team literally fighting for survival.
Let's hit the headline statistical anchor right out of the gate. 72%. From a purely data-driven standpoint, that is Bayern Munich's staggering win probability heading into this matchup. That's a massive number.
Absolutely massive. And tactically, a 72% edge forces a very specific game state. It pretty much guarantees Köln is going to be pushed into a deep, agonizing low block. The sheer territorial pressure Bayern exerts here means Köln's defensive structure has to be practically flawless out of possession, just to survive the opening minutes.
To understand how we actually get to that massive win probability, just look at recent form. Bayern is absolutely explosive right now. 4 wins and a draw in their last 5. The sheer shot volumes they're generating are literally overwhelming our models.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with Köln's incredibly fragile momentum. Just 1 win, 2 draws, and 2 losses. It's a pure narrative of momentum versus survival. Köln's absolute desperation to avoid relegation means their defensive cohesion is going to be tested to its absolute limit against that relentless attacking wave.
Looking at the setups, it's a 4-2-3-1 mirror match, right? But the execution couldn't be more different. Bayern's setup is entirely designed to generate central overloads. You've got Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka dictating the tempo, actively sucking Köln's defensive shape inward. And that allows them to execute rapid switches to isolate Michael Olise out in the right half spaces.
Yeah, but here's the data problem. Köln's ability to absorb that is severely compromised right now. They're missing absolutely key players, Timo Hübers at the back and Ragnar Ake up top. The models show a massive statistical drop-off without those two. Their absence fundamentally breaks Köln's ability to maintain a clean defensive transition and escape the press.
And the macro models really emphasize that gap. Bayern sits at that heavy 72% favorite mark with a draw at 18%. That leaves an incredibly slim 10% path to victory for Köln.
Right, so how does a team with a totally broken defensive transition pull off a 10% miracle? Well, it all comes down to exploiting very specific pitch geography. When Bayern pushes those fullbacks high and commits to central overloads, Köln has to utilize Lin Meine and Jakub Kaminski as immediate high-speed transition outlets. If they can't launch perfectly timed counters into the spaces Bayern leaves behind, that 10% probability, it completely evaporates.
Grounding this in the underlying metrics, we're looking at a projected expected goals, or XG, of 2.25 for Bayern and just 0.85 for Köln. Based on this, the models highly suggest a 2-0 scoreline. Okay, but tactically, how does Bayern actually generate that 2.25 XG? It's all about the sheer volume of progressive carries coming from their midfield. The defining question here is whether Köln's pressing triggers can actually survive that volume. Seriously, every single time Musiala or Kimmich breaks that first line of pressure, that XG gap threatens to widen in real time. The ultimate beneficiary of all those progressive carries is, unsurprisingly, Harry Kane. He carries a massive 54% statistical probability to find the back of the net today. He is literally the absolute XG magnet in this matchup. But, Kane doesn't just generate those chances in a vacuum. The tactical mechanics of that 54% rely entirely on Jamal Musiala, who has a 24% probability himself. Musiala is constantly breaking defensive lines, operating in those tight central pockets between Köln's midfield and defense. He causes chaos, draws multiple markers, and ultimately feeds Kane for those high-percentage finishes.
Now, for breaking down the fantasy anchors in this crucial vertical battle, Michael Olise is Bayern's ultimate high-value creation engine. His elite 1v1 creation from the right side is statistically Bayern's clearest route to breaking down that deep low block. On the flip side, Marius Bülter is Köln's critical counter strength. He absolutely has to act as their primary transition target. When Köln inevitably clears the ball out of their own box, Bülter has to win those second balls and hold up play. If he fails to do that, Köln's defense is just going to collapse under wave after wave of sustained Bayern attacks.
And defending those relentless waves creates a total tactical nightmare, specifically for Köln's Tom Kraus. From a pure positioning standpoint, Kraus is tasked with defending those incredibly dangerous Kimmich and Musiala zones. He is the main barrier trying to stop Bayern's central progression.
Which brings us directly to the card risks. Statistically, the probability of Kraus and Cenk Öztürk committing tactical fouls just to disrupt Bayern's rhythm is exceptionally high. They're going to be walking a very dangerous disciplinary tightrope right from the very first whistle.
And that leads directly into a massive, frankly game-changing contextual factor for this match: the referee. This is Dennis Eitekin's final Bundesliga game. The historical data on Eitekin shows he definitely allows physical duels, but he strictly punishes tactical fouls on dangerous transitions.
Which completely neutralizes Köln's defensive screen. Think about it. If Kraus is forced to cynically chop down Musiala to stop a central overload, Eitekin is pulling out the card. And once Köln's defensive midfielders are sitting on yellows, they can no longer aggressively challenge Bayern's key playmakers without risking a red.
So we've got the macro data clearly pointing to relentless Bayern control, with Harry Kane operating as a lethal XG magnet. And tactically, we've got a fragile, compact Köln defensive screen facing a strict officiating context that directly punishes the exact type of defensive fouls they usually rely on. So we arrive at the ultimate question for this absolutely crucial round 34 clash. With immense relegation pressure weighing on their shoulders, will Köln's defensive setup actually withstand this data-backed pressure? Or are the floodgates just going to fly open at the Allianz Arena? Keep an eye on those central pockets, because that is exactly where this match will be won or lost.